Okay. So one of the ways that the self-centered mind manifests, because that's what we've been talking about in terms of the best discipline is training your mind stream, okay, is it manifests in the judgmental, critical mind. Yeah, the mind that looks at what other people are doing and, why are they doing that? They should be doing this. You know? And it's very easy to do that also as a Dharma practitioner. You know, we look at other people, you know, other Dharma practitioners. And I remember when I lived at Kopan in the 70s, I saw one monk reading a Newsweek magazine and I was scandalized. You know, why is he wasting his time reading Newsweek? Or maybe it was Time, I don't know. You know, why? This is horrible for a Dharma practitioner. So, you know, it's so easy for us to look at what other people are doing and judge it. And it's, judging, it doesn't, in one way it doesn't feel so good because it's such a negative state of mind. But the conclusion of judging is that I'm better than they are. And that part feels good, yeah? So it's a weird thing. It's like, well, I'm better because I'm not doing that. But also it's like, ugh, the state of mind that likes to pick at people feels really yucky. So what do we do with that kind of mind? One thing I find helpful is when I see people doing things, one thing is I say, this is none of my business. Yeah? Because what I've realized is that we pay attention very often to things that are none of our business, but things that are our business, or when somebody obviously needs help, we don't pay attention. Okay? So what we pay attention to in other people is quite, it's not very consistent, put it that way, yeah? So, oh, they're doing something so bad, look what kind of people they are. You pay attention to that, but somebody's struggling carrying something and we walk right by them. Or somebody, you know, is like working very hard and has to meet a deadline, and we just, you know, go home when we can, you know? So, or somebody's not feeling well, and just, well, they can handle it themselves. So it's funny how it is, how we pay attention to things that aren't our business, and we don't pay attention to things where we actually can help, yeah? So that's one thing I remind myself of, is like, okay, let's not pay attention to things that aren't my business, and try and look with an eye of care on others and see what I can do that would be helpful. Okay? So that's one thing. Another thing I find useful is to think that person is showing me what I look like when I do that. Yeah. You know, somebody else once suggested that I look and say, well, they're able to do that maybe because they're more advanced than I am, but my mind isn't strong enough to do that. I don't find that one very satisfying. That one doesn't work so well. Because in the back of my mind is, well, who do they think they are that they're such a great practitioner they can act like that and I can't? Yeah. So I don't find that one very helpful. What I find more helpful is to own the fact that I do that, or I very possibly could do it, even though I haven't done it in my memory in this life, I very possibly could do it. You know, because we've done everything, so we can't really look at somebody else and say, well, I would never do that. You know, as long as we have afflictions in our mind, of course we could. Yeah, and then very often the things we notice in other people is what we don't like in ourselves too. You know, we're quite tuned into those qualities in ourselves, so it's easy to pick them out in other people. So I find it, you know, helpful to say, well, that's what I look like when I'm doing that. Yeah, and then that really, you know, instead of the microscope being on the other person, it's the mirror being on myself. And it's like, okay, how do I look when I'm doing that? Do I want to be that kind of person? Clearly, no. So let's learn from watching what this other person is doing and take that and change myself. I find that something very, very helpful to think. And then regarding the one of just reminding myself that it's not my business, there's a beautiful verse in the Pratimoksha Sutra. Do we have a copy handy? No. Yeah, okay. Then let's get one, and I'll read it to you. It's. I remember the first time I read this thinking, oh yes. So I don't have it memorized, so I'd much rather read it the way it is. But it's a very helpful verse. It's at the end. Okay. You'll know which one it is as soon as I start reading it. Yeah, where is it? Where did it go? Here it is. Okay, so this is the Vinaya of Tathagata Kakuchanda. And he said, just as a bee feeding on flowers extracts only their nectar without spoiling their color or fragrance, so a bhikshuni entering a city or village is mindful only of her own behavior to see if it is correct and does not interfere in others' affairs or inspect what they do or do not do. So that image of the bee, it just, and we can see in spring here, it comes and it lights on a flower and it takes the nectar and it doesn't ruin the flower and it doesn't put its own opinions on top of the flower. It just takes the nectar and then goes on and leaves the flower being tranquil. So in the same way, this is talking about, when monastics go on alms round, but it doesn't have to be on alms round. It could be any interaction with anybody, okay? To be mindful of our own behavior. And what am I doing? What am I saying? What am I thinking? Yeah. And not interfere with others' affairs or inspect what they do or do not do. Because there's no end to inspecting what they do or do not do. Because we have many opinions about that. And interfering with their affairs, well, we love to be a busybody, don't we? Rather than look at ourselves, let's look at what everybody else is doing. And how this one's relating to this one, and what this one said to that one, and what this one's thinking, and how it comes out in their behavior, and this, and, so instead to keep our energy inside and realize the only one we can actually control is ourselves. Yeah, and so we can learn from observing others, but it's not our business unless there's the chance to stop somebody from creating negative karma or harming somebody else, or if somebody genuinely needs help, then we do that. So, the Republican, I hate to call them debates. They aren't debates. They're more like, grammar school kids, throwing things at each other. They've deteriorated. Each debate gets more and more crass and revolting. And you think that this is for the highest, the leadership of, the superpower and the way these people are talking to each other, And it's a very good example of if we don't watch our own speech, then our speech will become like that, So they're not talking policy, they're throwing personal insults at each other. And sometimes the personal insults of really the most disgusting kind, which is being shown on national and international TV. So to look and say, wow, this is what I look like when I just sit and criticize people and pick faults and judge them and call them names and accuse them of things they didn't do because I'm mad or I'm competitive or whatever it is. And to say, this is a teaching for me on how I don't want to act, and to come back to our own sense of personal integrity, that, I don't want to be that kind of person, not judging them, but, I have my own standards and I don't want to fall beneath my own standards. And also of consideration for others, that if I were to speak or behave like that, then how does that affect other people? Because you have some people who are teachers and parents write in and say, these people are acting like my children. And what's going on here? Because it really is. Some of it is like children in the playground, and some of it is like frat boys. So really thinking, like my integrity, my consideration for others, I need to be very aware of how I am in the world, and I want to put better energy in the world than these people are doing, and they're just overwhelmed by their own afflictions, creating amazing negative karma. But the real thing is for me to pay attention to how I am and what I can do to make things better. Okay, so this is one way to really see how the self-centered thought operates, how it causes problems for ourselves and others, and one way, to try and restrain it. Okay? Because it's not like we're superior to any of those people. You put us in the right situation and we will speak and act just like them. If we're not careful, if we don't train our mind. So, our practice is quite important because what one person does can influence a lot of people. Here you have just a handful of people, and what they're doing is influencing, millions, actually.